Let's talk about umpires.
What do you want to talk about?
They just can't seem to do anything right.
In a lot of people's eyes, they can't.
To 50% of the people watching whatever is going on, they hate them.
I have a lot of strong feelings on the topic.
There's a big love-hate thing that happens.
And when I was a player, I was the same way.
Yeah.
Like I had moments where I liked them when they would give me calls.
Yeah.
And I had moments where I didn't like them when they would not give me calls that I thought were strikes as a pitcher.
And this is true in any sport. Referee on the basketball court, a ref at volleyball games, the umpires, soccer fields, I don't know why anybody would have a desire to put themselves in that position.
I think that people that do that, they just love that sport.
I hope so.
Yeah, I
hope so.
Because the truth is that when in baseball, these umpires, when they step onto the field, there are instantly players and coaches in the dugouts, fans in the stands that see them and instantly think enemy. They instantly think that they are not good people. They are not here to help anything. And then when the games go on, and I'm 100% guilty of this, you see all the mistakes that they make that hurt you. And one thing that I realized later in my career was that they make a lot of mistakes that help us. But we tend to only focus on the ones that hurt us. And then at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about all the mistakes that were negative towards us, put us in a negative count, and we don't know how to recognize the mistakes that they made that actually helped us.
I wonder if that is some kind of innate human thing, because it seems like it's easier to focus on the negative, whatever the situation is. Or maybe it's just a personality trait, maybe it's part of somebody's character, but it seems like it takes more energy to lock on to the positive things than it does the negative. It seems effortless to be negative. I don't know why that is.
I remember having games out there I was pitching, and the umpire would miss a call that I thought was a strike. And I'm saying bad things under my breath in my head, thinking about the count should be this, but now it's this. Instead of being in this situation, now it's this. And looking back on it, it was such a disruptive, distracting mindset to every time they make a mistake for my mind to go to that place, that I was in a bad headspace to be all in on the next pitch to execute that pitch. And I remember for a lot of my career, early in my career, and I still did, not to say I was perfect as I matured, but I got better in this area. And it really hurt me. And in a sense, if I'm not being mentally tough enough on the mound to move past those moments, I'm hurting my team. So me being mentally soft because I think the umpire just made a mistake is me hurting my team. And in that moment, we become so caught up in that's not fair, it should be this, the umpire's against me. All these things put me in a headspace that is not healthy at all. And unfortunately, I've tried to phrase this so many ways on social media to try to help people understand that where our head needs to be for us to be the best competitor. A lot of people understand, but there definitely are people out there that they just cannot get past the umpires. They can't get past thinking that these guys are ruining the game.
So is it a selfish mindset?
I think it's more of a fair mindset. Like on TV, now we have ABS, which is, in my opinion,
ABS.
So ABS is
automatic.
I think it's automatic ball strike system. I honestly don't know what the BS stands for. ABS. I don't know what the BS stands for. But having that now, it's going to make things even worse at the amateur level, because everybody's going to expect, like, look, we got this strike zone thing on TV. We think that you guys should be performing the same way that big league umpires do. And this even shows that, it shows that those big league umpires are really good at what they do, because you're talking about misses that are less than an inch. Like, you're not big in inches. These guys are missing pitches like this, and it's being made to look like they're making these huge mistakes. But anyway, so like what's happening with that, I feel, is going to make it even worse at the youth level, because we're consumed with fair. We're consumed with, you got to get it right? I hear it all the time when I put out this, but like, they're getting paid. Like, I don't care if they're getting paid. Like, this is youth baseball.
So that means anybody that's getting paid to get a job should be perfect and never make a mistake. Like if those people that are like, well, they're paid.
That's a common rebuttal that I get.
Yeah.
They're the only ones getting out there getting paid. They're not the ones that have to.
They're not professional though. In youth sports, they're not professional.
The truth is that
umpires.
I mean, you might come across some coaches that played in the big leagues or played professionally. Some played college. But the reality is that youth baseball is amateur baseball. So you got amateur players, you got amateur coaches, and you got amateur umpires and
amateur spectators.
They don't want to acknowledge it, but literally almost everybody sitting in the stands that's complaining about this stuff, they're amateurs too, right?
Yeah.
So they, because of all that amateur stuff, we have a place of negativity and amateur mindsets, to be honest. And it's not to be mean. That's just where we are. There's a ton of inexperience out there that doesn't know how to process and handle umpire mistakes in a productive way.
So to me, it sounds like it's a little bit of an immature, and maybe it can go along with the inexperience, because not everybody has as much experience with umpires as a professional person that does. But it sounds to me, as an amateur, that it is more of an immature or selfish or maybe ignorant mindset, because you just don't know. Like if somebody complained about my nail service because they saw a slight imperfection. I mean, I'm a paid professional nail tech. Of course, I want to do a good job and I do my best every time, but also I'm human and I cannot perfectly replicate the little picture that you brought me for the nail art or whatever. If you're not perfect at what you get paid to do, you cannot expect perfection from somebody else just because they're getting paid to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, at the tippy top, the guys that ump the World Series games, to Joe Schmo who took a weekend clinic and now is umpiring at Little League games, and you know,
there's a big difference. But again, of
course there's a big difference, but
it's all relative.
Yeah.
You know, the athletic ability, the coaching ability, the spectator ability, whatever you want to call it.
I mean, I coached.
It's all amateur.
Yes.
You get money involved. People love to use money as an excuse.
Yeah.
You're saying, I'm paying money. There's people are making money. So they're making an excuse for them honestly behaving poorly and having a moment of mental weakness.
Yeah.
Right? What people don't realize is that this is a temporary moment. This is a game. Like a month from now, the kids, especially the kids who are playing the game, they're not going to remember that missed call. But the adults, man, they just hang on to it. And then it starts festering and you go from tournament to tournament, game to game, and they just can't handle all these mistakes. Again, failing to acknowledge the mistakes that helped them. We literally hold on to every mistake that hurts us. We fail to remember all the times that it helps us. And the truth is that it's probably about 50-50. Like in the end, it's going to even out. They're going to make as many mistakes that help compared to mistakes that hurt.
Yeah.
And, you know, I got to play this game for a long time. I started pitching when I was 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah.
That means I pitched from the time I was 8 or 9 years old until I think 32, 33.
Okay. That's a long time.
Yes. Umpires' mistakes had nothing to do with my success. Nothing. In the moment, it doesn't feel good. In the moment, it hurts. But their mistakes had no say in how my career went. But in the youth game, and again, I try to word this in ways to get people to understand. I've tried a gazillion different ways to word it to help people maybe see that where our focus needs to be, but it's hard. It's a hard message to get across, but
I think it's like accepting reality. Because in reality, they just made a call that you don't agree with.
Yeah.
That's the reality. Like, move on.
The reality is, and I tried to voice this a week or two ago in another post on this topic, that forever how many calls that we think the umpire made that hurt us, again, not the ones that helped us, the ones that hurt us, those calls will never outnumber, especially in the youth game, high school game, it will never outnumber the amount of mistakes that the players make, that you make as a team, the mistakes that the coaches make. I mean, I'm talking about being in the wrong position on the field. I'm talking about coaches being solely focused on the ball and ignoring what's going on in the field. I'm talking about base running mistakes, not getting good enough primary and secondary leads, not being good at dirt ball reads, which I don't know if you know what that is.
Or backing up. like where you're.
But even pitching. I mean, if you have
Yeah.
however many pitches you throw in that game, if your pitcher is missing their spot by feet,
Yeah.
which happens a lot in youth baseball,
Yeah.
you're going to tell me that the umpire's calls are going to be more than how many times our pitchers throw wild pitches not even close to strike zone, or how many times our hitters take good pitches to hit and swing at bad pitches, right? I mean, honestly, if you were to go down every aspect of a game, it literally will never outnumber the amount of mistakes that you think the umpire made. But at the end of the day, it's easy. It's easy to point fingers.
Yeah.
It's easy to blame and think that somebody was out to get us, that somebody messed up the whole game and it was somebody else and not us. And that's the hard part to get across. Our focus needs to be on how do we get better every single day. And
Yeah.
if I'm constantly blaming and pointing fingers, umpires, coaches, teammates, if I'm constantly doing that, I am stalling the process of getting better. And that is where, if we had more heads, more minds in that direction versus solely focused on all these uncontrollables, you would see growth happen a lot quicker.
I think that's maturity.
Yeah. And it is, but even at the professional level, you got adult athletes who have moments of mental weakness where they
Well,
become
yeah.
consumed on those calls.
Moments.
Yeah.
Not, yeah.
Yeah, but you get youth players that it will literally, I mean, I'll see them days later after their tournament and I'll ask them how the games went, and the first thing they say is they want to talk about the umpires. And so like when our mind is in that direction, when I ask you how the game went and your first response is to tell me about how the umpires performed, we're not there. Like we're not even close to being as good as we really think we are. And it's one of my responsibilities as a teacher, as a coach of the game, to call out, these moments. And, when I'm with kids, I'll definitely bring it up, and it takes time. I mean, there's kids that will do it time after time after time. They just can't let go.
Yeah.
But it's got to be talked about. It's a severe weakness out there. And unfortunately, a lot of it starts with the adults because the adults can't stop talking about it either.
So that's what I mean when I say I wonder if it's easier and takes less mental energy to focus on the negative, because it sounds like you as the athlete, you have to have intention behind your thinking and letting go of something that didn't go in your favor just now. It seems like it's a lot more work to do that, and your mind and your body will find the path of least resistance no matter what you're doing. So it's a focused effort with intention on developing that skill. I feel like it's a skill you develop along with your physical stuff. And like, it's hard.
It can be developed.
It's hard.
It can be developed a lot quicker if the adults had that attitude. The issue is that the adults talk way too much
But my
about
point is that
umpires.
it's something that you have to practice.
But that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like if the adults had that and that was a consistent message from the adults, the kids would get there quicker.
Oh, gotcha.
But the issue is that the adults also do this.
Yeah.
And I'll see it on social media. That's adults that are responding to me
Yeah.
that they cannot let go of the umpire's mistakes. These guys are getting paid. They should be held accountable. Sure, hold them accountable, but at the end of the day, that's a temporary moment that you're going to keep making into a bigger moment, a bigger thing, because we keep talking about it. Like, stop talking about the umpires and what can we do to get better. That is one of the biggest crutches in development. That accountability piece, that mental weakness piece, it's not talked about, and the habit is, again, to blame and point
It
fingers.
should just be like no blaming allowed. Like there's no crying in baseball.
Yeah,
Well,
and
there's no blaming.
There's
no blaming
there's some
allowed.
coaches and some parents that are really good with it.
Yeah.
But you get a dugout, you get one coach in a dugout, one coach starts making small comments in the dugout on umpire, you got a dugout full of innocent minds who are going to grab onto it, and next thing you know, you got a whole dugout that's complaining about every call. Even if the umpire made the right call, if they feel that it might have been the wrong call, now it's all everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
And again, the umpires are a huge distraction. They're there, right, to do their job. They're not going to
Yeah.
be perfect. As athletes, we are way less perfect. We make way more mistakes than umpires make.
Yeah.
But again, it's easier to focus on theirs and not acknowledge our own. It hurts a lot less to talk about somebody else's mistakes than to talk about ours. And it took me a long time. For myself, it took me into my probably late 20s to get to a point where I really let go of a lot of that stuff. So again, it's not like I don't fault a lot of these kids for being that way. The youth sports culture is really bad about this. It's everywhere, and a lot of the umpires bring it on themselves. I'm not gonna say there aren't some really bad ones out there, but at the end of the day, we got to understand that those umpires' calls have nothing to do with our choices, with our preparation, with our toughness. They just don't.
Notes aside.
That's the umpire topic is a very passionate one for me because it was such a weakness for me.
Yeah.
That I talk about a lot on social media because I feel that if we can just get better in that area, we will get better.
Like I know there's a lot of
competitors.
There's a lot of stats kept in baseball, so I wonder, even if you just took one position on the field and you compared the mistakes that one player made that game, even the pitcher, let's say, if somebody could track every time in that whole game or when you were in there that you missed your spots compared to the calls that he made against you that didn't go that were mistakes. Does that make sense? I just wonder what that number would be. Like if we're comparing, like I make mistakes all day, every day as a mom, I'd be like, whatever, like we're all human, like nobody's perfect. Like we all know this, and yet we expect perfection from other people.
Yeah.
All the time.
I think one of the hardest part about calling balls and strikes, you hear it all the time, we just be consistent. So spectators, coaches, players.
Like your strike zone needs to be the same
be the same, right?
Yeah.
Now, the question is what does that mean? So home plate is 17 inches wide. Mm-hmm. Okay. The Major League Strike Zone is called based on that. Now you go down to kids, there should be a margin for error, right? That's what people say, like a strike zone for 10-year-olds is not going to be the same as what you see on TV.
Oh, I was going to ask if you think youth umpires give a little grace, if they're a little more generous with their, with their calls.
So there should be. Mm-hmm. Now the issue comes when we're hitting, we want the strike zone to be called 17 inches.
Yeah.
But when we're pitching, we want grace. So everybody wants consistency. But when it comes to that stuff, our emotions get in the way because we're not being consistent with our thoughts, right? We will focus on the strike that's called a couple baseballs off the plate when I'm hitting, but then when I'm pitching, or vice versa, I get upset about those calls. So there's a lot of inconsistencies, again, within the people not umpiring with how they see this stuff. But then the question is, what is acceptable? Okay, so the space between home plate and the line, the batter's box line, that's called the river.
Okay.
I know we haven't talked about that, but that's called the river on each side. Now that river, you may go to some tournaments and that white line is a little bit further away than others, right? There's not professionals chalking these fields or even put down the turf lines. So if we want grace, is grace 2 baseballs off the plate, right? A baseball's 3 inches wide. So if a baseball touches the edge of the strike zone, that's technically a strike.
Right.
So do we want should that be a strike? Is that a ball? Do we want to go 3 baseballs off? Are we okay with that? Mm-hmm. So everybody says be consistent, but what does consistent mean? And what does consistent mean for when you're pitching or consistent for when you're hitting?
Yeah.
That needs to be the same. And people, they don't want to play that game. They want it to be one way when they're hitting and one way they're pitching. But if you're telling me you're okay if it's called line to line when you're hitting, there's all this gray area. People think it should be done this way or that way. Again, do you want it called 2 baseballs below the zone, 2 baseballs above the zone?
Yeah.
That means that you're going to have strikes called at the chest, strikes called at the shins. Like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Right? So there's all these gray areas, inconsistencies with thinking, okay, not okay. It's a very sensitive topic. And if we were to go out there and call literally the strike zone, these games would take forever because these kids are not professional pitchers. If the hitters were to not swing, almost every kid would walk.
So do you think when coaches or parents are upset about whatever they're upset about, do you think they're realizing that's their thought? They want the strike zone one way when their team is pitching and another way when they're hitting? Like, are they...
I don't know. That would be a question to ask them. But again, I think the perspective is so biased because you have money involved, you have your own kid involved.
Yeah.
You have your own kid involved who you don't want to fail. You don't want anything negative to happen towards them, so you feel that you're in protection mode. There's too many emotions involved, too much money involved, which leads to more emotions.
Yeah.
And it will never be fixed. It will always be an issue. Umpires will always be the enemy. They'll always be the scapegoat for poor performance. I mean, we could lose the game 15-0, and if we feel the umpire missed a few calls, we're going to talk about the umpires before we talk about why did we give up 15 runs. But that's where we're at. That is kind of the attitude out there. And if we lose 3-2, they will say that one call may have cost us the game. Whereas again, if you go deeper into that game, we left 5 runners on base. We didn't advance a runner when we had a chance to. We had a runner at second, nobody out. We couldn't get that runner in, right? So we lost the game in those moments.
Yeah.
We didn't lose the game because of that call or a couple calls.
Yeah.
But again, there were probably calls throughout that game that helped us. It's a tough topic. It is. And it's one that I don't think will ever be solved.
Well, no, because then, even if it's like literally a robotic strike zone, no human is involved at all. Somebody will still complain about something.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to these.
Okay, we could talk about this for the whole thing.
Yeah, Baseball 101 with Rachel. Today, kind of on trend, we're going to talk about scorekeeping a little bit.
Oh, no.
I know, but this is
okay.
I have 5 different topics here within scorekeeping, and a lot of it is more of for educational.
Okay.
Right? Maybe to see what you know, but then to teach you and and whoever's listening about the difference or what they are. Okay.
So let's just state for the record, I know nothing about scorekeeping. I've seen a scorebook. That's my experience with scorekeeping. Is I've seen the scorebook. I don't know how to do anything when it comes to scorekeeping.
Well, lucky for you, I've scored hundreds of games.
I mean, I look at the scoreboard. That's how I know what's going on.
So I didn't do any scorekeeping until I became a professional. Okay. And then as a professional, as a starting pitcher, we had to keep charts when we weren't pitching that game. And one of those charts that I did every 5 days was I would score our pitchers. So I would keep the book on our pitchers. Okay. I'd track every pitch, every hit, every error, every stolen base.
I do remember there'd be
walk, strikeout.
2 or 3 you guys in the stands that day. Somebody's on the gun, somebody's got a book, and if there's another person, they've got another book, or they're keeping track of something. I mean,
so one guy typically their job was to hold the radar gun. Another guy was to write down the velocity, what type of pitch. Yeah. And then the other guy was there to do the chart I'm talking about, the pitcher's chart, which charted the whole game for our pitchers.
Those were kind of fun games, getting to I couldn't sit next to you, but I'd sit behind you or something, and more time spent together.
Yeah, learn scorekeeping on the job.
Okay.
So, and again, if there was,
you weren't going into it completely clueless, though. I mean, I'm sure in high school you guys had to keep track of something.
No, I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
I don't think so. Okay, first one, and this one. Another sensitive one. I've written about this a lot and tried to explain it in great detail, and people still, they want to have their own interpretation of the official rules. Okay. And that's what they think they should be.
Okay.
What is the difference between a wild pitch and a passed ball?
Okay, I think I know this.
Yes.
Okay.
We've talked about it. I think you and I have talked about this before.
Okay. I think it's, a wild pitch, I think, is if the catcher can't get to it with not within reach, but a reasonable amount of effort. If he's having to lay out because you threw it 10 feet over here, that's a wild pitch if it gets past him, right?
Yes.
Okay. A pass ball is when it's his mistake. He could have gotten it. It was within his reach, or however you want to phrase it. It's a pass ball if it's on him that he missed it. He didn't block it, or is that right? Does it bounce
You're going
somewhere?
in the gray area there.
Oh, no.
You were on the right track.
Oh, because it's that's up for interpretation. To me, a reasonable amount of effort, maybe that's my own phrase, is somewhere in there that a wild pitch is on the pitcher and a pass ball is on the catcher. But I don't know what the line is. Okay. So, am I close?
You're definitely on the right track.
Okay.
So wild pitch is if a ball is without reasonable reach. So if a catcher would have to reach really far to get it. Yeah. And he missed it, resulting in a runner advancing.
Okay.
So all these have to do with the runner advancing. If no runner advances, it's a nothing.
It's nothing.
It's just a ball or a strike.
Okay.
Yeah. So out of reach, gets past him, runner advances, wild pitch. If a ball hits the dirt before reaching the catcher. Okay. He drops down to block what he's supposed to do, but the ball kicks away maybe it goes out too far, maybe it goes to the side,
Yeah.
and a runner advances. Wild pitch.
Okay.
Now, there are people that say, well, I don't care. If it hits the ground right in front of me or my catcher, he should have blocked it. That's a pass ball. The rule states if a ball hits the dirt before reaching the catcher, even if it's literally right in front of, if the ball hits the dirt first, bounces off wherever, resulting in the runner advancing, it's a pass ball or wild pitch.
Wild pitch. Okay.
Now, a pass ball is if the ball is catchable in the air and it hits off of his glove and a runner advances because of that, that's a pass ball. Now, a pass ball is when it comes to figuring out earned runs, unearned runs, a pass ball is treated as an error, even though it doesn't go on the scoreboard as an error.
Okay.
Right.
So it doesn't count against that pitcher if a run is scored. It doesn't go on his ERA.
There's other things that...
We could get into the weeds about that. But,
yeah.
Okay.
For example, if it was a strike 3, okay, and if it was strike 3 and the ball hit off the catcher's glove, got away, but the runner was able to reach first base. Because of that pass ball, if that runner were to come around and score, it would be an unearned run.
Okay.
Now, if a runner got on a strike 3, but he got on because of a wild pitch, meaning the ball hit the dirt, or if it was like, if the hitter swung at a high fastball and it was way up high and the catcher couldn't reach it, and he was able to reach first on that drop third strike, he came around to score, that would be an earned run.
Okay.
So there's scorekeeping.
There's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts, which is probably why there's so many different interpretations of how to do it.
There are so many rules in baseball.
Yeah.
It's insane. So like if you're, hey, we need somebody to run Game Changer, and you volunteer, you better buckle up. Because there's a lot of stuff coming at your way.
I would not be that person.
And if you have someone that knows the rules and they start coming at you, that's the person that should be doing it. Game Changer.
I remember in Little League, people were surprised that I didn't know how to do score. I never volunteered to do the book.
Yeah.
And I just nope, I don't know how. But I think a lot of people assumed I did know how.
Yeah. Okay, next one.
Okay.
What's an error versus a hit?
Oh, an error is when the runner reaches on base because somebody messed up. And then a hit is when it's a hit. He reached base because of his hit.
Okay. Nice, clean example. Easy example.
To me, that's easy.
Yep. So reasonable effort
Yeah.
is a term that's used. Say a shortstop, there's a ball hit to his right.
Yeah.
And he just has to take one step over and do a backhand.
Yeah.
And he makes a mistake. He hits off his glove, goes away.
Bobbles it.
Bobbles, runner reaches, that would be an error. Now, if he has to take 3 steps and really reach, and he's long reach and the ball ticks off his glove, that may be scored a hit because of the effort.
Right.
He had to give extra effort.
I think of somebody that's has to jump max vertical and it just ticks off.
That would be a hit.
Yeah, okay.
Now, if it's right here, he doesn't really have to jump and it hits off, and that's an error.
That's an error, yeah.
So when it comes to hits and errors,
I feel like that's something you know it when you see it.
Yeah,
you know it's an error because it's reasonable or not reasonable effort. You know it's a hit. I don't know.
Scorekeeper's discretion, people have a hard time with because, again, we're human, right? So we see things a little bit different. What someone sees as ordinary effort, someone else may see as extra effort. So some people may see things differently.
I wonder if there should be official Game Changer operators that are with whoever's running the tournament, like the tournament director. Yeah. There's somebody appointed at each field that's going to keep the Game Changer, because I know that you've got parents on there and they're like, well, that was reasonable effort.
Yeah. Well,
and because they want to make their kids' numbers look good or their kids' friends' numbers look good or whatever. You're really going to run into bias when you've got that
Game
going
Changer
on.
is another super sensitive topic out there.
Yeah.
Every time I talk about Game Changer, people come out of the woodwork.
I know.
You're talking about parents doing it that give their kids hits, but other kids errors, vice versa.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. And then there's teams that literally, if parents don't know, or there's even a team I know that the coach says, you know what, I don't want to have to deal with the drama. If they hit it, score to hit.
Oh.
Because he doesn't want to deal with the drama, which I understand.
Right.
Right? But at the same time, you cannot look at those stats seriously.
Right.
If you're scoring everything a hit, even if there's an error made, he's not hitting 800. Right? If there's all these errors made. So
then let's clarify this. Just because there's contact made between the bat and the ball, that is not a hit. Just because there's contact made and the runner reaches base or whatever, that's not
to the
a
newbie.
hit.
They hit it, so it's called.
Okay,
So
well,
it's scored
that's
a
not
hit.
what hit means.
No. A hit is when you hit the ball and the other team couldn't field it cleanly, or couldn't even touch it, and you reach base.
So then it's either a hit or an error.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's also little things like you may hit a line drive to left field, and it's right at the left fielder, and he goes to field it, and it gets past him. Right? He makes an error and it gets by him, allowing the runner to go to second base. That scored a single, but he reached second on the error. Now there's people that watching the game, they'll just score that a double.
Yeah, because he got to second base.
Because he got to second, right? So even then, within the numbers, the numbers are skewed. I mean, you hear about all the time the Little League home run.
Yeah.
A kid will hit a swinging bunt. It will barely get to the pitcher. They'll make an error throwing it to first.
It's just bad
then
news
another
bears.
throwing error, then another throwing error, and then Johnny hit a home run. Everybody's going crazy. The fans are going wild. Yeah, so be very careful of.
There's a lot of nuance and a lot of details and a lot of ifs, ands, or buts when it comes to scorekeeping.
I'd be very careful taking Game Changer seriously. There are some things on there that are really hard to mess up.
You could take the score seriously, just if you want to see who's winning and losing, right?
Score, as long as the person running it knows to change the pitchers when there's new pitchers pitching.
Yeah.
It's really hard to mess up pitch counts. It's hard to mess up walks. It's hard to mess up strikes. But when it comes to hits, errors, earned runs, careful. Yeah. Careful.
See, I just don't even want that responsibility.
Yeah,
that's another reason why I never volunteered to keep score.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to learn how because I didn't even want it to be an option for me. Yeah. I don't want anything to do with that.
Okay, stolen base versus, I don't even know if you even heard this word. What's indifference?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you steal the base.
Yeah. A stolen base would be the runner
advanced.
is running on the pitch. So as the pitcher goes to throw the pitch, the runner's stealing and he successfully reaches the base.
Yes.
That's a stolen base.
Stolen base.
Yep.
Like you know it when you see it.
Yep.
Okay.
So to go back to errors, let's say the runner is stealing second base. If he would have stolen the base even without the throw, or if the throw wasn't going to beat the runner, so he steals second, the throw gets past the infielder and goes to the outfielder, leading for that runner to go to third base. That's a stolen base, but he advanced to third on an E2. Unless it was a throw that was in the air, catchable, to the second baseman or shortstop, and they botched it and it got away and that allowed the runner to advance, then it might be an E4 or an E6.
What's the other term you told me? Something indifference?
So in indifference, this comes down to when people are on Game Changer or keeping a book, not every time a runner attempts to steal, will it be called a stolen base. Say it's later in the game, it's a blowout score, the runner steals second base. Or sometimes there's a runner at first and third, and that runner's going to steal second base. If there is no attempt to throw out the runner, the catcher doesn't pop up to throw the ball, or the infielders just maintain their positions, then that is called an indifference. It's not a stolen base. It shouldn't be scored as a stolen base. Now, even this, I think people have their own definitions of this scoring.
I'm sure they do.
They'll say it's only in certain situations. But if an infielder were to go to second base to cover, even though the catcher weren't throwing, because that infielder moved to cover second base, now it would be scored a stolen base.
Okay.
Because there is an attempt by the defense to possibly try to get him out.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, another super confused one out there.
You just have to know the ifs.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of ifs. If this, but that, and then, but if this, then, it's. I can see why people get confused and they're just like, well, this is what makes sense to me, so this is how I'm going to do it. Even if it's wrong. I mean.
Yeah, scorekeeping is hard. Next one, sack bunt versus a hit. Or forget the hit part. What is a sack bunt?
It's when you.
Sacrifice bunt.
Okay, right. You're trying to get the runner to advance.
Okay.
But is there such a thing as a sacrificed hit? Or no? Do you typically put down that bunt to try to get that runner?
We'll get there in a second. So there's a few different ways to look at this. So a sack bunt to be.
I feel like you're setting me up with these.
No. to be simple, sack bunt is putting a bunt down,
Yeah.
helps the runner advance the base,
Yeah.
and you get thrown out.
Yes.
So when it comes to scorekeeping, it's scored a sack bunt, which does not go down as a plate appearance.
Okay.
So if I had 2 plate appearances that day, and I had 2 sacrifice bunts, on the day I went 0 for 0.
Okay.
I had no official plate appearances because
Okay.
both of them were sacrifices.
But if that's in your line, somebody's going to look at that and be like, oh, those were 2 sacrifice.
Yeah, there might be somewhere at the bottom where it shows sacrifice.
Okay.
I don't know how it's, maybe it is SH. I don't know how it's put in Scorekeeper.
Okay.
Like if I'm keeping a book, I'm going to put SAC BUNT. I'm going to either write that out or do something to signify that it was a sack bunt.
Okay.
Now, if it is a sacrifice, meaning to be a sack bunt,
Yeah.
and they get the bunt down, but they end up not only advancing, but they beat the throw, that would be scored a hit.
Okay.
So I'll get a hit for
Which
that.
to me makes sense.
Yeah. Now, another thing, this is where sometimes it gets confused, and honestly messed up probably often with amateur scorekeepers. If that batter goes to lay a sack bunt down, gets it down, but there's an error on the throw, allowing the batter to reach, it still is scored as a sack. From the outside, it looks like there was an error on the throw, he made it to first base, it scored an error.
Because of the error.
Because of the error, so that's an offer, right?
Okay.
Because you don't get credited with a hit
Okay.
when you reach base on an error.
Okay.
But in that situation, it's still scored as a sack, so it's still not
Okay.
scored as a plate appearance. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of little
Okay.
buts.
I'm gonna need a nap after this.
Yeah. Okay. Last one.
Okay.
On the same line, what is a sack fly?
Same thing. But it's up in the air instead of on the ground.
Typically to the outfield,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So
Sorry. Yes. When you pop up to the outfield,
Yeah.
is it a pop up if it's to the outfield?
I mean,
Fly out.
fly out. It has
Okay.
to be deep enough for that runner at third base to score,
Okay.
right? And that runner at third base cannot leave the base until the ball is caught.
Right. I know that. I feel like a lot of these are, you know it when you see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, if I had to like write it all down,
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to call like timeout so I could just write everything down before the
Yeah.
game
And
continued.
another hard thing for amateur scorekeepers and game changers, it's a lot of button pushing. And if you have a play where there was a lot to track,
Yeah.
which happens a lot in the youth game, if there's
Yeah.
a lot to track, there's people doing it that they're like, I'm not, whatever.
So is there someone having a book at these games?
Some people do. Some people
Just for their own?
Yeah, some people enjoy keeping the book, and you might find some old school coaches that
Yeah.
keep a book in the dugout.
Okay. I didn't know if they did like both.
Yeah, so-
somebody's on Game Changer, somebody's on the book, and it's so they can like update Game Changer, go back to the book and look at what happened, and whatever.
For people watching this that might be interested in, on our website, I have a page called Free Documents that has 24 different
Yeah.
types of charts and stuff, and I do have a chart on there that is a pitcher's chart similar to what I kept as a professional when I was in the dugout or in the stands.
Okay.
It's kind of the same format, which maybe isn't a typical scorekeeping book, but it's cleaner when it comes to like tracking pitches, total pitches, ball strikes.
Okay.
You can put more detail on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice for some people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we done with that part?
Yeah.
That was hard.
I'll
Need to
have
go lay down.
Gosh, whatever. Okay, now we're going to talk about,
Should we get into the season?
let's talk about 2001.
Yep. Yes. West Tennessee.
West Tennessee, so this is our third season, final season, but third season in beautiful Jackson, Tennessee.
Yeah.
We got some stats to go over for this season, because after the season I also pitched in the Arizona Fall League. So, I don't really remember too much about you and I during the season.
It's because we weren't living together
Yeah,
at that time.
we-
Well, so let's back up just a little, because in the off season, so last episode we talked about how that was, in 2000, we got married in 2000. We got married in the off season in December of 2000. went on our honeymoon. We were living with your parents at that off season. Right before we got married, I was hired on at a salon in Portland. And so for this year, this 2001 season, I stayed back and worked at the salon. I was a full-time employee, worked at the salon while you were... I wonder if we were thinking you would get moved somewhere at some point, or it's probably because I was hired on and I couldn't just leave for however many months. But I ended up going to live with my brother because they lived in Portland and I worked at a salon in Portland. So that's probably why, I mean, I came out to visit you obviously, but that's probably why there's not a ton of memories because we weren't together for that. I mean, we were together, we were married, but we weren't living together during the season.
Yeah, and this season for me, we'll get into the stats here in a minute, but like the season was very up and down. Some parts weren't bad, some weren't great. Probably I was pretty inconsistent with my performance. After the season, I went and pitched in the Arizona Fall League, but at some point in there, this was 2001, so it was when 9/11 happened. So there were...
Also happened in that off season.
Yeah, and I don't really remember, so if the season ended early September, it must have been 9/11 happened between the end of our season and between when I went to the Arizona Fall League. So there must have...
It was September 11th.
We were living in an apartment in Portland at that time, which, man, I just don't remember the time frame when we moved in.
I don't either.
I left for the Arizona Fall League.
Oh, you know what? I set it up before you came home. So there must have been a gap because I got it all set up like at the leasing office.
Okay.
And then I think maybe you came home and like maybe we both signed the lease or something. And then, I remember we woke up to an alarm. Maybe I had to go to work. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
So much of it is foggy. But anyways, I do remember our alarm radio came on and they were talking about 9/11 and we were like, what? What happened?
We went and turned on that TV and it was like the whole world changed right there.
Yeah. Getting into the season.
So let's talk real quick about some of my stats from that year. And again, this may help give a little insight and help me describe and maybe remember how that season went. Okay, so you had 27 starts, which you said was a full season of starts. So you weren't injured during the season at all. You made all your starting pitcher appearances. Okay, yes. You went 5-11. Not great, by the way.
Wow.
But some of the other numbers are gonna help.
Right.
We talked about in the last episode about win-loss record, how you got to be very careful of using that only to determine a pitcher's kind of worth. I
mean, if you look at just that, you had a losing season. Right?
Bad losing season.
Less than 50%.
Yeah.
Okay, you had your ERA was 4.5. You had 160 innings pitched. You gave up 159 hits. So a hit an inning, just about.
Which is...
I feel like that's not bad.
It's not bad. You know, and again, we talk about what organizations are looking for in their front, top level prospects. And hit an inning you don't want much more than that.
Mid, or okay.
Yeah.
159 hits, you had 63 walks, 136 strikeouts, and your whip was 1.39.
Okay, so 160 innings. How many walks?
63.
So almost a 3-to-1 ratio. Almost. So getting closer to that 3-to-1, 4-to-1 that we were talking about in the last episode of, if you can do a good job in that area, it's going to keep your whip down. And again, when your whip is low, that typically means you're throwing less pitches per inning, and so on. What were my strikeout numbers?
136.
Okay, 136 strikeouts in 160 innings. Not bad. It shows compared to the stats for the season before. My put away, we talk about strikeouts, we talk about put away type pitches. My put away numbers were better than the previous season. But again, I still wasn't striking out a batter per inning, which as we get into the later seasons in my career here, I kind of stayed around that area. My stuff wasn't as dominating for that level as it probably needed to be a consistent big leaguer. Meaning that I had good enough stuff to get outs, good enough stuff to throw a ton of strikes, good enough stuff to be competitive, But big league, they're looking for their big league team. They're looking for dominating stuff.
Yeah.
They're looking for guys that
Makes sense.
dominated the minor leagues. And that's kind of what it is. It's that world understands the process of development, and when they see something in you early on, which I was fortunate they did, you're going to get more opportunities. I had that couple seasons early in my career that I showed progress in my velocity ticking up every year. I think at this point it started to decline a little bit, but I still was competitive enough, getting enough outs to where they still liked something in me. And this was season 5 of my career. So season 5 with the Cubs, they're the guys that drafted me. They still had an investment in me. You'll see as when we get in these later years as a free agent, they don't have that investment in you.
Yeah.
You got to show up. You got to show out every day or else the leash is short.
Yeah. I do have another number here.
What's that number?
Strikes to walks. Wait,
Strikeout to walks.
I think so.
Yeah. So what was it?
2.16.
Okay. So that's talking about strikeouts to walks. So that ratio.
I wrote W instead of BB.
That's fine.
That's why it messed me up.
So that's talking about that strikeout to walk ratio. So again, I said that says it was more closer to 2-to-1 than 3-to-1, but still kind of compared to the year before, way trending in a better direction.
And then in AA, pitchers started hitting.
Okay. You want to talk about this?
Well, I wrote it down.
Yep. So not anymore, right? Because now everywhere has the DH in both leagues. But back then in the National League, pitchers would hit. So in the minor leagues, if our organization, the team that we were playing with, the organization we were with, was a National League organization, when we got to AA or higher, starting in AA, pitchers would hit.
Did you have to play a National League team?
That's where it's going. So for us to be able to hit, we had to be playing, because in the minor leagues you're playing everybody. Whoever's in your league, like that. The West 10 was in the Southern League, so you may have American League organizations and National League organizations in that league. So if we played another National League organization, pitchers would hit on both teams. If we played an American, then both teams would have the DH. Okay. So what were my hitting stats? And this was it for that season or all 3 years? What did I give you?
I don't know.
Okay. Just start naming them off.
Well, so now I'm confusing myself because I have my numbers written on different places. So plate appearances, because we also talked about the fall league, which I know you'll talk about, but I don't know if the plate appearances is for, it's probably not for that.
Okay.
So I have 75 plate appearances, but 69 at bats. What is that?
Okay. So going back to sacrifice.
Okay.
Or walks. Walks do not go down as an at bat.
Okay.
So plate appearances is every time you go up to hit. At bats is when there's contact made or you strike out.
Okay.
Right. So again, if there's a walk or a sacrifice fly or a sacrifice bunt, that does not go down as an at bat. That's
why those numbers.
Correct.
Yeah, there's two different numbers. To the layman, they mean the same thing, but they don't mean the same thing.
Yeah, I think when I was giving to you guys, I said I would explain.
Okay, so your numbers, you had 12 hits.
And so real quick, these numbers I gave you were for all 3 years. All 3 years that I was in AA, since we forgot to talk about them in the last episodes.
Oh, yeah, okay, because when you played an American League team, you didn't hit. So, okay. Yep. So you had 12 hits, 2 doubles, 4 RBIs, 2 walks, 27 strikeouts. You hit 174.
So I hit below the what?
15 singles? Okay, I can't read my own handwriting right there. It's below the Mendoza line.
I hit below the Mendoza line.
Whoever Mendoza is. We need to Google this and figure out who that is. What's 4SH? What is SH?
Sacrifice hits.
Okay.
That must be what they scored as. Even though it's not a hit. That's what we got confused earlier. So people think because you hit it, it's a hit. But, so SH would be like a sac bunt or a sac fly.
Okay.
But anyway, so pitchers, our job was to be an expert bunter. If we could hit on top of that, that was icing on the cake. But we had to be an expert at bunting. So we put in a ton of practice in bunting. At this time, we didn't talk about this, but I was on the Major League 40-man roster with the Cubs. And in spring training, we would even have all the pitchers, they would put together like hitting contests. And I remember one time I actually won. I think I got like a Walkman.
You actually won?
No, I got a portable CD player.
Oh,
that was my
fancy.
my award, yeah.
Fancy.
But we had to be experts at bunting. So I was able to get some hits there, which those are always fun. But it's funny, when I was giving you these numbers, I shared with you that a lot of the kids I work with, if it ever is brought up, they thought that all I did was pitch. Nobody had any idea that I ever had a hit.
You ever swung a bat?
Yeah, and we'll get to it later, but I did hit a long ball a few times.
I think I remember you falling down running to second base one time.
Probably. That's where pitchers get the...
Ghost hole got you somehow, and you just...
Pitchers have a reputation for being unathletic, and I'm sure that was an unathletic moment.
You did fall down the mound one time, too, I do remember.
That was in Daytona Beach. I remember throwing a pitch and just being so crazy with it that my legs went out from under me and ended up on my butt on the mound.
Yeah, I would literally like blinked and you were on the ground, and I think I had asked whoever I was sitting with, like, what the heck just happened?
I don't remember a lot of little moments from my career, but I remember that one.
I literally don't. I was like, how do you fall down?
Yeah.
Like,
there was so much torque and whip happening in my delivery.
Yeah.
I'm sure I was just trying to throw it 110 miles
hard.
an hour.
Yeah.
And it just,
oh my gosh.
it didn't work out.
It is funny watching tall people fall, though. That's funny.
Yeah, you're funny.
Okay. Okay. Anyways.
All right, so after this season, I got to pitch in the Arizona Fall League. And the Arizona Fall League seems to be everything now, even like from the draft to Arizona Fall Leagues. A lot of these things, because of the internet, are way more touted, way more talked about than they used to be.
There's space to talk about it.
Yeah, but the Arizona Fall League, the prospects of prospects go down there and play in this 6 to 8 week league that happens down in Arizona in the fall.
Okay.
Beautiful weather down there that time of year. October, maybe a little bit of November, maybe a little bit of September. I can't really remember the dates, but...
So that means I lived in that apartment alone for part of the time?
You must have. You came out to visit Arizona because we just loved
I
Arizona
for sure
so much.
sure came out to visit, but...
Yeah.
Wow, it's funny how you just like...
Forgot all that stuff.
It's not like blacked out, but you're like, okay, anyways, sorry, getting off track.
But anyways, I got to pitch in that, and it was a great experience, and kind of showed me that the Cubs at the time, I was really still high on their radar. And we'll talk about it the next season, 2002. They bumped me up to AAA. I think I was first year AAA at 22, 23 years old, something like that, which is pretty young.
But also you came right out of high school.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So let's talk about the stats for the Arizona Fall League real quick.
Okay. I already forgot what GP means. GP.
Games pitched.
Okay.
So I think I pitched in 9 games, and I don't think I told you this, but I had 7 starts. So that means I had 2 relief appearances.
Okay. 3.6 ERA, 25 innings, 25 hits, 8 walks, and 28 strikeouts.
So somehow put up some actually really good numbers for that sort of league, especially coming off of the season that I just had in Double A that season.
Well, it wasn't terrible.
Looking
at some of these numbers, it's not terrible.
Not a terrible season, but not as good as what I did in the Arizona Fall League.
It didn't dominate.
Yeah, so like those Fall League numbers probably made the Cubs feel really good about me at the time.
Okay.
So the 8 walks, how many strikeouts?
28.
Right, so we're at that 4-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
Right, so again, what you're looking for in your main starters. You're looking for guys that fill up the strike zone, throw a ton of strikes, and they're 28, what do you say, 29 strikeouts, 28 strikeouts in 27 innings? 25. 25, so a little more than 1 an inning. But again, I showed that I had put away stuff against a lot of other prospects. So that was a great experience. You got to play with guys that are from other organizations. I think that each team is made of 3 or 4 different organizations. I know the White Sox. White Sox were another organization.
So it's not like the Cubs' top prospects plays the White Sox top prospects.
No.
Okay.
So we were the Cubs, the White Sox. God, I cannot remember the other ones, but the Cubs sent 4 to 5 guys
Okay.
to this team. The White Sox sent 4 to 5 guys. The other organizations did to make up one team.
Okay.
So then you have, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 teams in the Arizona Fall League, all
Okay.
made up of different organizations' players.
And you're all playing each other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's a small, like, I mean, compared to spring training.
Yeah,
It's a small,
It's a prospect league, you know, like in
elite a little
in
bit.
youth,
Like,
in travel ball now, well, not necessarily travel ball, but you see in youth game, you see scout teams, right? So you may have some areas that have major league scouts put together a team of local prospects, local draft prospects, local college prospects.
Okay.
And they travel around and play other teams. It might be non-scout teams, and they may play against other scout teams. But anyways, to get to it, that was a great way to end that season. And again, kind of kept me on the map for the Cubs, enough for them to keep me around for, again, another season after that, and spend a year in AAA before, and we'll talk about it, before I left to go be a free agent.